Hi friends, this is Manish Pandey. Welcome back to UiPath Forms tutorial series. In the previous video, we explored the overview of attended automation triggers template, why it is, why we use it, and its architecture. Now in this video, we will do a deep dive, and this will be a detailed walkthrough video of the attended automation triggers template in UiPath. By the end of this video, you will understand how to modify and use this template in your attended automation projects. You will understand each and every steps of this framework. So stay tuned and let's get started. So this is attended automation triggers template. As you learned from the previous video, we click on home and then from this new template we can click on that and it creates the templates here. And now once you create this, then left side you see all these folders added by default and the dependency added here. What I did here in the dependency, I have taken the latest version of the uipath.form.activities package. And then the system, and these are like latest version of packages. Now, as you can see, this is the design of state machine. It has 4 states: initialization config, user input form and process, third result form, and fourth end state. And these are all state. Each state is connected with the transitions, that is successful, system exception, repeat process, cancel form, end process, business exception, those things. Now I will open each state here and then I will explain each and everything. I will try to also run in the debug mode so that I can show you how config is getting added here. Now how you can pass the input to that form and then it will process. You will see the result form and then it will go to the AND state. So let's start with the initialization config state, as this is the starting point of the automation, where robot loads the configuration settings, reads form settings, assets, and default values. Now, if everything is successful, then it moves to the user input form and process state. If there's any issue like system exception, then it moves to the result form where it will show that error to the user. Okay, let's open this here. Now to understand this state machine and state activity and these transitions, better you can watch my state machine playlist videos. There you will understand each and everything. I hope you have already gone through that. If not, I suggest you please watch that video first. Okay, now here you can see it has an entry. Now here we have a try catch activity. Inside that we have a log message which says that this init part started, and then there is a if activity which checks that not hide underscore message. Now what is hide underscore message? So whenever bot starts that, it shows one status window here, one status form which says that process started, process running, process successful, like that. So if you want to show that message, this form, I can show you that form here. It is from the form status window. Let's go to the form status window. This one, let's open this form. Now this is the form. Here it says that status window, and this is a label which gets updated based on the status. So first time, if you want to show the status to user here, that form, then you can keep it false. So you can see arguments hide messages, hide results. If we'll pass here any value, then based on that it will work. So currently there is no value, so not hide message, so it will show that message. If you'll set it true, then it will hide the message. Just do you want to hide the message? Set it true. Then that specific form will not show here, which says that form started. Sorry, automation started, automation in progress, like that. So you can try doing that one. By default, it will go inside that and start that form. Here we are setting this continue because we have to move further and then start processing other things. So continue workflow execution on. Else part, there is no activity. Now, as this is initialization states, nothing value set to the system exception. It means there is no exception at the initializations level. Now it's going to load the config. Let me show you first here. So here it is taking that, using the direction in and out, which says that status window message. Now you will be thinking like, what is this status window message? And as this is a part of initialization state and we are not passing any value, so how can this show that specific value here, like process started and those things? So here, if you see this variable status window message, if I'll go to the variables, we do not see that variable. So from where we are getting that? So we are getting this variable from the data manager. So if you don't know what is the data manager and all these things, I recommend you to watch the complete video of this data manager from my channel. You will understand each and everything. So here we have this global variable status window messages, and there the default value is set as starting up. You can also change that value. You can say automation started. Okay, so you see here this value is getting passed to this status window. Okay, so it will show that. So let me first explain each and everything and then I will run in the debug mode and then I will show each and everything. Now there is no exception, so it sets nothing to the system exception. It's going to load the config file, and here we have initialize like init all settings workflow created here, which will initialize all the settings from the config.json. Let me open the workflow. It will check for the local config file. It will check and get the config. Let's open this workflow. So in this check and get config, it's first going to retrieve the project name and version from this project JSON file. So if we'll have open this file ever, then you notice that there is a version, project version. It says that 1.0.0, 1.0.1, 1.0.2, like that. So whenever you will publish that process, then automatically this project JSON file gets updated with the latest version. And there you will see that project name. Basically this project name is this one. So here there is a sequence. So it is going to read the JSON file, that project JSON file, storing in this str underscore project JSON, and then using the regular expression system.text.regular expression.regex.match, it's going to take the input from here and then checking the name and then dot star dot groups of first value. So this will give the value of project name. Same way it's going to apply the regex to get the project version. Let me show you this here. Let me open this. Right click on this project JSON file, and now I'm going to open that in the Firefox so that I can show you in the JSON format. So we have a JSON. Now you can see here we have one that is name, and then we have one for version. So let me show. So this is the project version. So project version, this one. So based on this, it will get this value. And then this is the name, which will give us this value. Okay, so we have name and project version. Now this, why we are using this, why we are getting this project name and version. So project name we are taking so that on the form will show this automation is for this process. So it will show that automation name there on the form while processing that or while taking the input, right? And then version is to just match the version, which version is running, like that. Now there is a flow chart inside that sequence, and here it is checking that it's getting the environment folder. Basically the special folder selected here, my documents, means it will give you the full path of this documents folder. Currently it says that here documents, but it will give you the complete path like C drive and then your username and then my documents, like that. This will be used here to create a folder and store the config.json file, which will be used on the runtime here for that specific process, for that specific run. Okay, it checks that do we have this str document path. We are getting like C drive, username, and then my documents, that folder. And then do we have this folder created there? And then again now we have project name, which we have taken from the project JSON file. And then it's checking that we have this file already available here. If it's not there, so it will first create that folder and then it will store that file. Now if first time you are running this process, then that file will not be available here. Then it will create that. If it's there, so it will always, you know, use that same folder, and it will just try to update the JSON file and use that same. Now if it is not there, if it's there, so you can see it's just going to read that config file, and if update requires to update that and then check the version against the previous version. Now if it is not there, so let me show you here. Then it is going to check that automation config folder for that this path, like UiPath config not delete and then project name. So this complete folder, like till my documents folder, like documents folder, and then there is a one more folder, UiPath config. This should not be deleted, and then your project name, that is we are taking from the JSON file, project JSON file. So it checks that do we have this folder created. If yes, then it's okay. Otherwise it checks one more folder, that do we have this folder till now, till this. If this is not available, then it creates, else it creates again it has some activity inside that. I will show you that. So it creates a master folder, means it creates a folder in the my documents till this. In the my document folder you will see this folder created, and then it creates another folder again inside that with the automation name. So now this time it will be, so this is already created there. Now it will create the folder with name, project name. So like multiple checks and then conditions available here. And then once this folder is ready, then it will update that config here. So this is the first time, sorry, this is the first time when there's no folders, it will create that. This is the second time we can say where the folder and files already available, so it will just go to read that config file. And to read the config file, it is using read run, this read text file, which is going to just read the file from that config JSON file, which is called run JSON, run config.json file. This file will be created there. It will read that, and using deserialize JSON, it will deserialize that. It means convert the JSON string to the JSON object. Okay. Now after reading, it has the update config. So there is a JSON file available inside the data folder and then supporting folder that you can see it from here. So data and then supporting. It has the config JSON, config utility backup, config utility. This JSON will be used in this process. It will read it from there. This backup is for the whenever we take backup of this config utility, it will be just a backup of that. Means whenever we try to reset that the config values, the settings, then it will take backup from here and replace with that file. Basically that is the use of that. So this is the original file. Now this config utility is basically whenever before starting the automations, there is a JSON file that we need to update. If you want to set any default values, you need to change the value for the any specific key, then you can use that config utility. I will talk about this later. So this JSON will be used, right? But for the for now it will read config JSON itself. So it will read that file, then again it will deserialize this JSON file, and then it will take one by one the based on the objects system.collections.generic key value pair system string and then Newton soft JSON link you J token. It will take one by one value from there, key value pair of token dot value, and then assign to this key. Okay. After that we have if activity, which checks that if user guide URL is blank, so there is a user guide. So this form itself, if you see, let me show you the inputs, form inputs form. So there is a button here which is created to help you with the user guide. So let's say user guide of this automation. So if you want to set the URL of this, you can do that one. So might be for the first time it will be blank. So it checks here, do we have this user guide, this value blank based on the config of user guide URL. If this is blank, then it will pass that message to this one, which says that no user guide link available. I will also try to update that and show you how this works. And if it will not update, then what will happen? Everything I will show you. Okay, this will be a lengthy video, but stay tuned. You will understand all these things here. Now updating these details here. After updating this, it's going to check that version. Check version against previous execution. So the version that is taken from the JSON file and then version that is taken from the config file which was updated, it will compare always here and see that this is the first time or not. But actually here there's a try catch here. It checks that if this version not equal to uh, project JSON version, then it will set that this is config set to true. First run it set to true. If config has no value, then by default it will go to the catches part system.exception, and again it will do the same thing. It will set the true to first run, because in the config you might not see first time if you are running that, so you will not see that version updated here, that 1.0.0. So it will throw an error. It will go to this part and then set true. So the same thing it will do here. If you are not able to pass it here, then it will go and set it here, and then after that it updates that version to the config file. So if it's not there in the config file, it will update here, and then it will also update the documents folder path which we created earlier for the run JSON folder. So this is the my document folder, and then UiPath config, do not delete, and then project name, your automation name, that will be assigned to the automation config folder path. Okay, so this will update that. Now let's close this. Let me close this. Go to init all settings, and after this It will also check that we have assets config file created in the supporting data under supporting. So there's no assets here. So it will just check that file is there or not, and then based on that it will again do the same thing. So if you'll have seen that unattended automation RE framework template, there we have assets and then um, assets, settings, constants, these things created. So it starts reading all the things, like it will take the assets value from the orchestrator and then add to the config, like that. So same thing it does here. Now it reads that assets config from here and then adds to this config key, like that. So it gets the orchestrator assets here, it lowers that, right? Same thing. Now let me close this. Close this as well. So this init part, initialization part is done here. Now after that we have multiple assign, where it's setting the default values to configs. So let's say result form message. So here it will say that your automation has finished. So this is the default things. If you want to change that, you can change it here. Now config PIP. Do you want to run this process in the PIP? It will. So if you have already set in the project, it will take it from the environment variable. It checks that if environment.get environment variable dot contains this one, then it's set to true, means you want to run that process in the PIP, else false. So PIP means picture in picture. So it will create another session, then it will you know run the process in that session, in that window basically. Now it will set form cancel equal to false. So in the first time these will be false, means I don't want to cancel that form. So view output. So first time false, I don't want to show the output here. Now show repeat process. Yes, I want to show the repeat process to users. So if they want to run this again, even there is no error, they want to run the process with something other, some other folder, some other settings, then they can do that. So I want to show this. Config repeat process. So it says that false. So it doesn't want to repeat it here itself. So based on this buttons, it will once user clicks on the button, then it will set it okay repeat process. Now this repeat process will set false, means it will not go to the not go to this part. So based on the repeat, this config is there. Okay, now so it has already set the default values here, all these things. Now there is a log which says that executed in PIP. If you set it here, if it is true, then it will set true. If it is false, based on this environment variable, then it will set it false here. Okay, so now this is for the successful scenario. If there is any issue, like there is exception, it will set the exception to the system exception variable. And now based on this system exception, there is a transitions added here. There's two transitions. If system exception is nothing, it means there is no issue, successful scenario, then it will go to the user input form and process state, which is this one. If there is any exception, it will go to the system exceptions, and then in this part it's going to log this message. So logging and everything is already available for errors. It checks that config is nothing, then it sets initialize this config dictionary as a new dictionary of a string comma object, and then it gets the project name, set the error email response to blank, those things. So it reads the JSON file again here, and then it's going to get that process name and assign to the business process name this config. And now it's setting the blank to the email error email recipients. So if you want to set that uh, email recipients, you can add it here, or you can directly add in your config. I will show you how to add that email recipients for this config. Okay, so for now it will set that take that business process name and then assign that blank email, means it will just um, draft that email and then uh, it will be ready for you to just send that, because as this is just an attended automation, so it will ask you to send an email. So we are not using here directly send email, which will send that email. It will basically open that as per your default application, we can say. After that, there is a assign activity which says that, which sets the origin and a status. Means origin means from where we are getting that error, so it is init state. So from this is the origination of the error. And what is that? This is error, so yes, this is system exception, so it says this value here. And now after that, there is a few config key like error type, result form message, so repeat process, form title. So for error, it's assigning a system exception, means there is an exception there. An error occurred for the result form message. So what do you want to show in the result form form message to user? So we want to show like an error occurred during init and system exception part, new line, and then source is this one, and then this is the error which is coming directly from that activity. Okay, so these complete things will be set there, and then based on that transitions which is linked here, it will just show that a specific message in the form, right? So config is already available here. Now as we are done with this initialization part and config part, let me show you that config things. So if we'll go to the data and then supportings, right click in the config, open this in the Firefox. Let's take this config utility, go to the Firefox. So if you see here, output folder path. So basically when I tried running earlier, so it's already updated with these things. This is the my documents folder, and then it has taken this file path and the automation trigger, that's complete folder till the automation name. Now the business process name is set to blank, user guide URL blank. So once we'll start running with this init part, and you saw that when there's an error, it says that automation this name to this key, right? Description, email recipients is currently blank. If you set that, you can set it. I will show you how to set the default values here for that process. Queue name is by default set is here process abcq. You can also change that. Orchestra queue folder, form title is showing here UiPath. You can also change that. You can change the max retry number. So these are like config JSON file which is used for the attended automations. It is same as the Excel file that you use in the unattended automation process in the RE framework. So that is config.xlsx file. So it has exception is concerned folder path. You can also modify that. You can set that folder. Processing transaction number, this, all these logs, these things here. Now there is a utility one. So output folder, we have set it this one. Business process name is blank, URL is blank, description is blank, email error recipients is blank here, title, UiPath, maximum retry, all these things set here. Okay, so this will be used by the process, and you can also update this. Okay, let's close this. Now we are done with this. So if successful, it goes here. In case of error, it comes here. So I'll show this part here later once we'll come with this. Now go to this user input form process, which is the second state. Okay, once we'll come to this, the first entry point is inside the try. It checks that do we have UiPath assistant opened here on the system, means as this process is the attended process, so user needs to run that process from the assistant, right? So it checks that do we have a UiPath assistant running here. If yes, then it minimize that window. If that window is not available, no problem. It is already set to continue on error. So it will go to the next. There is no error here. Means if it is there, minimize that, otherwise move further with the next activity. So it says that minimized UiPath assistant. Now it's going to display the user input form so that user can input their details here and then like input things here like the actions and those things, and they can start running the process. So loading user input form. So user input form, there is a show form activity which is a part of uipath.form.activities package. So as we are using latest version of this automation trigger template, and then we are using the latest version of the forms package activity, then this is showing the latest things. So I'm using 24.10.5 of this. Now this will show the form. Let me show you that input forms here, where it has the container, and in the container there is a, I believe, a label header which is set to get the business process name, which will come from this JSON file. So it is going to take it like data.logf. So this logf basically a config key, this one. So whatever data available in that config key, it will be displayed here. Now again, this is the description. So if you have set the description in the config, it will be updated here, and everything is in the one container. Okay. Now there is a view user guide. If you click on that, it will show you the user guide of this automation. Whatever link, whatever URL you will set here, it will show you that. There is a HTML form content. Let me show you. So here says that this is there is a HR tag. What is this HR tag? Do you know? Okay, so this HR tag is basically horizontal ruler, means horizontal things. It will add one line here, means it just to divide this part. So this part is just to show that automation name and description, and then there is a line here. Once I will run that, you will see, you will be able to understand. So just keep this in the mind. There is a rule, horizontal rule. After that, there is a select folder, that is basically a button. So I have already shown you how to use that select file path, select folder path, like so the browser, the browse window where we can select the folder, select the file like that. So there is a button created here. Once we click on that, it opens that the browse window, and then you select that path, and then path will be showing here in the output folder. So this is the text field, and there's again HTML content, which is again HR tag, means again one horizontal rule, that line. And then after that, continue button and cancel button, means if you click on continue after selecting all these things, it will go to the next process. So from here you will enter your inputs. You will give the inputs to the this automation, and then it will continue processing that, and there is a cancels. If you cancel that, the form will be cancelled. So based on that inputs, you will see here it will work. So if you'll set it cancel, it will cancel that. If you'll set it if everything is success, then it will go to the result form. If there is a business exception, it will go to the result form. Means for error or success path, it will show the result form here. Now again, if you come to this, then I will show you the result, repeat process things. But let me come to this again. Okay, so you have seen that all these. It's going to load that. Here in the show form, you see there is a container. So this container, basically there is one container. Inside that there was a log messages, buttons, those things there. But here we are just passing only value as a Newton JSON, Newton soft.json.json convert dot serialized object of config. All this config we are converting to the serialized, and then like serialized means we are converting from the object to string means so here it has not used a serialized JSON activity. Deserialize is just to convert from string to object, and serialize is used to convert from object to string. So there is no activity used here. It is directly passing that expression here with the serialized object. So it will take all the config values, convert it to the based on JSON, it will convert to the string, and then this string will be passed to the container, and then based on that key, it will automatically updated. So that form will be automatically updated. Means if the key logf business process name is already available in the config, it will be updated. If the automation description is this key available in that form, in that config, it will be updated. Those things, right? For this output folder, if it's there, then it will also update that. So let's say if you go to the field key, there is output folder path. If this is already available in your key, then this will be updated. Okay, let me go to main. Now once it will show that to users, it has already continue workflow execution set to on, so it will go to the next. So the form will be displayed to user, and then it will start the triggers. Means there is a run local triggers activity. You will have learned from my previous videos what is the use of that. So that now after showing this to the user, that run local triggers will be started. Then only once you click on any buttons, based on that trigger, action will be performed here. So let me open this workflow. So there is nothing else, only one activity used, that is run local triggers. Okay, after that, based on your action, it will set that here. So if there is a business exception while performing this, so currently there is a few things here, that's why you might not see any business or system exception, but here in the you can do multiple things here, right? Multiple checks you can do, but this is just a simple design just to understand. Okay, now if this business exception, it will set the exception to the business exception, right? Now this system exception, for system it has it will check that do we have business exception word there in the system exception. If yes, it will assign the as a business exception message, and whatever exception coming from there, it will assign to the business exception. And then if not business exception, means it is system exception, so it will assign the exception to the system exception. Means on the first time in the initializer it was set system exception equal to nothing. Now if there is any error here, it will set the exception to system exception on the form side. Okay, now you see here there are 4 transitions and then destination. So if cancel form, then go to end process. If success, then the result form, system exception, result form, business exception, result form. So for these 3 scenarios, if success or any errors, remember this, if any error means system or business exception, it goes to the result form so that it shows the outcome of this automation to the user. If success, it goes to the result form to show you the success, the outcome of this automation to users. If cancel means user doesn't want to process that, so they can go to the end process. Okay, now let's go one by one. So if user clicks on cancel, so if you see there's a form here. If user clicks on this cancel, then based on this trigger, based on this action, this will be performed. So form cancelled. So if it is true, it will set that ending process, and it will go to the end process. And in the end process, whatever things you will add there, it will be performed. If it is success, it will go to result form. If this is business or system exception here, it will go to the result form. Okay, now if success, it will come to this. Now this part is done, right? So first and second, I hope you understood it clearly. Now we'll move to the third state called result form, where it will display the result form to users. Let's open this. Now in the entry point, you see here, first it will show that log message loading result form. Now they just set form values. Now it is, before showing the message, it is setting that form values to the form. To which form? To the status window. What is the status window? Which will show here. Means it was the first time when you will initialize the process, it says that starting up, which was coming from the global variable. Got it? Now this time, if there's any error or successful things, it will set the value here. Now let's see the value. It says that process complete. So if there is no error, means in success scenario, it will say that process complete. After setting the form values for the status window, it will take the origin and status. So it has the switch activity, and based on your these values, if system exception, business exception, success part, those things will be available here. So see, so if process and system exception, so while processing that, if the system exception, it will come here. If business exception, it will come to this part. If init and system exception, it will come to this one. If process and success, then it will come here, like that. So let's say this one, process and system exception. In this case, it will so show this form as a form error. This is a part of this form error folder. So here you will see that an error has occurred, this label, and then here you will see the description of that error message, like including the exception message, exception source, and some layman understandable messages here. And there is a email error options. If you click on that, if you hit on this button, then one email will be drafted, and you just need to enter that two email recipients, that ID, and then you need to send that email. After that, you can close the form, or if you think that we need to repeat that process, you can hit on this button. And then you see the value will be assigned like result form message. So whatever error will be received, that value will be stored to this config and it will assign to this form. Repeat process set at true means that button will be displayed here. And then if you click on that, it will go to this part. If you click on that, it will go to the repeat process using these transitions. It checks that is it true. So yes, it's true. Then it go to the user input part again, and it takes the input and then again start doing the transitions, those things. So this is for the system exception part. Okay, now after that, it again starts the triggers. Why? Because it goes to the trigger part again. It goes to the form again where it will take the input. So this should be started. The run local trigger should be started, and then it checks here if repeat process not, then throw error. So if user didn't want to repeat the process, then we just need to throw an error message, right? So it will throw the error message and go to end. Now if it is on the process and it's business exception, let's hide this. If it's business exception, then it's going to show the another form, same form I believe, form error, but this time it will say again whatever error coming from there, and it will show that repeat process option. It will run that local trigger and throw a business rule exception message here if user doesn't want to repeat the process. If you want to repeat the process, you can repeat it here. If not, then no need to go back to the input form state. it will just go to the AND state. In case of init system exception here, it will again show that error message to the form, and then this time repeat process set to false because that is system exception, and it happened on the init part itself, because whenever there is a system exception here, it comes here to the result form, right? So it checks these things also. Like, I mean, it's checking that is it coming from init state or from process part. So this is actually a process, right? Input and process means you can say as a get transaction and process. Everything is here itself. And this is just to show the result form. So that's why there is a switch case error here, just to take the origin and exception. So origin, like is it coming from init or process? Now, is it system exception or business exception? So that's why there are four cases you will see here. Sorry, three I believe. Init and system exception, because from there is no business exception, is not going to process anything. Only while executing that config things, only there is a system exception might be. So one for the process system exception and process business exception. Only these things. And at the last, process and success. So for process and success, it saves the config file with the details. Means it removes all the sensitive informations from the config. So it will set the password to blank and then update that data, that updated config file here. So it will serialize the JSON object and then it will update that JSON file. After that, it says that do you want to hide the result? So if not, you don't want to hide that result, then it will show the success message. Success message is basically, let me show you that form, which will show that automation completed, good job, something like that. So automation name will be displayed here, and then it will show the complete details, automation completed, good job, and those things will be there. And then if you want to view the outputs, you can click on that. And then if you want to repeat the process again, you can repeat it or you can close that. And it will set these values. So process name will be assigned here, the process name from the config. Form message will be this. So view output set will be set to here, and then again it will run the local triggers, so that if user wants to repeat the process, they can do that one without running the local trigger. It's not possible because you will not able to send the triggers, the signal, so to do the next step basically. Now, in case of default case, means it's not a process success, not a process system or business, or not in its state system, then the default it says that invalid state, invalid origin and state reference, and then at the last it says that closed result form. And after that, in exit, it will go based on the transitions. If you want to repeat the process, it will go to the again to the second state, that is user input form and process. Else it will go to the and process. Okay. So if user clicks on that, so here there is a repeat process. It checks there here. If repeat process, then again it will set all these exception message and everything to the nothing. Means there is no error now because it will start as a new. So exception is nothing, business nothing, repeat process false, because now no need to repeat again because we have already repeated. Now based on the exception or success, it will again set the value from that uh, from this state. Now so view output false instance, it says that instance plus 0, it will set it name and then 0. So instance is basically for the form instance. Now at the last, it goes to the end process. So end process state is the final state where automation closes all the sessions and end the processes. So you can take here like stop local triggers or like close forms if you think that any form is open at the end. So you can do that things. But I believe everything is already done here. You can just take a log message which says that reach to the end state like that. Whatever you want to do here at the end, you can do here. So this is the complete detailed walkthrough of this process. But stay tuned here. I will show you this process. I will run this in the debug mode. I will show you each and everything. Now let's go step by step. Okay, so first time it says that not hide message. So there is no value passed here. It means it will show that I want to show the message, not hide, right? So let's see how does it look like this form. So it says that starting up based on the value coming from the data manager. Got it? Okay. So if we'll close that form, so later on there will be error somewhere because you try to set the status uh, like process completed, process starting, process started like that something. So if you are not setting any value here like true, then do not close this form because that is attended process. Okay, let's complete this part. Let's click on step over. Let it read all these things here. Okay, it's reading all these values like from assets and everything. Let's close this. I will show you the exception part also if there is any exceptions. So for the timings, he says that PIP is false. Executing is PIP is false. I'm not running this in the PIP. Now there is no error here. So it's going to the so it checks here system is exception is nothing. So yes, now destination is user input form and process state. Okay, now this is the second state. It's going to the try activity and then it's going to minimize. So let's say if assistant is opened here, then it will do, otherwise continue on error. So let me open assistant here so that I can show you how does it work here. Let me first open this. Now let me set click step over. Okay, once we'll do that, it seems okay. Okay, you see it worked here. It's already in the minimize mode. And if you'll see here in the assistant, it shows that this process is started processing, right? This is running. See it worked here. Now it's going to load the user input form. Let me show you the form here. Okay. Now you'll see here we have view user guide and there is a rule, right? Horizontal line that we did using the HR tag here also. So this is select folder. Let me do it this way. Select folder, output folder. This file path is showing here. The folder path is showing here and continue and cancel. Now currently nothing will happen here. If I click on anything, nothing will happen because the local trigger not started here. So first we need to execute this part. Now based on the input, it will start performing actions here. So let's say if I click on view user guide, then okay, so you see here when we clicked on that, so this is updated, this status is updated with no user guide link available, means it was blank, right? So you saw that there was a step there, there was activity where assigned value like no user guide link available, it was checking that user guide config of this is blank, then assign this, right? So you'll see that here. If you click on select folder, so you can see by default it's updated because the config is updated here. First time we selected that and it's updated here. Now if you want to set it blank every time whenever you want to run that, so it will set it blank there. We can set it blank from the config utility. I will show you how to use that config utility. But let's click on select folder. If you want to change that output folder, if you click on that, this browser folder is showing that. Now if I select this one, click OK, and you can see this path is changed. Now if I click continue, it goes to the next state, which is result form. If I click on cancel, it goes to the end state. And let's click on continue. So as per this automation, it takes the path and process that. So continue. And once you click on that, you see status is updated like process is running. So currently process is running. Now it move. Let's see. It's going to move to the next state. Going to finally, and then it's going to set here process and success. So if there is no error, there is no system or business exception, then it says that original state has a process and success, and error type is blank, means there is no system or there is no business exception. And then you have noticed that there is a switch activity, and that switch activity, the case is this one, process and success. So now we are in the result form state, where it's going to show the result form. So it's going to set the form values, means here it will set the form value here is process complete. So let's step into, if you will close this form, then this will not be updated and you will get an error, because the set form value only will set the values to the form if that form is running and visible on the screen, means running at least. Okay, now based on the switch case, it will come to this part, process and success, because the state was updated there, right? And then it will set the all this password and everything as a blank. Let's step over, and now you can see there is a forms showing here. This is the form, success form, with the value coming from the business name, result form message, and show view output. So you see here, this is the one, your automation has finished, great job. And then if you want to repeat the process, it will repeat that. So based on this action, it will perform that. If I click on close, it will close that. Let's try with repeat process here. Now it goes to the input form and process state. So the first process was completed. Now because we used repeat process, so it will go to this part, but before that it will set all these things to default, like nothing, 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 like that, and instance name is 0. Okay, Now it will again load the form. It will ask you to select that. So as we selected earlier, so it saves that, and it asks you to go with this default value, or if you want to change that, you can change it again. Let's say I want to process with a different folder, something I want to do that. So I will go with this and continue that. If I click on view user guide, you will see here the form updated again, no user link available. Now if I click on cancel, you will see here what's going to happen. Let's go to the, now as I don't want to process that, I clicked on cancel. So it shows that, is it true? So yes, this time it's true. Ending process form cancellation. Let's continue so that it can go to the end process and close that. Ending process, and this is done. Right? Now let me show you one system exception part. You saw happy path, it means successful path. Now let's see the error one. For that, what I will do, I will go to this init here, and to throw the error here so that we can reach to the result form, I will modify some key name. So let's say key name will be uh, let's say in the log message there is a config of pip. I will remove this. As this pip, like only pi is not available, it will throw an error. So let's run that. And after that, I will show you the other option, that is config utility, means how to run that and what is the use of that config utility workflow. Okay, so process starting up, it shows that now executing in pip set false and given key pi was not present in the dictionary. Now let's continue with this. So as there is error, it is showing an error here, and you can see that an an error has occurred. This is showing in the title as a header, and this is the error message which is showing in the text area component. So it has the default message which is added. So an error occurred during, and this is the origin and the state, I think, means init state and the exception, source, and then error message. Now we have email error and close that. If you click on close, the form will be closed and go to the end state. Now if you click on email error, then based on the trigger, one email will be drafted with these details. Let's click on email error, and you will see here based on your default application for the email, it will type that. So I have selected as a Firefox, so it will open this mail.google.com and type with this mail to, and then it's set to blank, system exception body, an error occurred during this init and system exception, then source is this, then given key was present, like you can see from this URL. Okay, now you can see here it has taken a system exception here, and then two, it is blank because we have not passed anything. Now in the system exception subject, this one, error is this one. Now if you want to modify this body part, you can modify and then enter the recipients and then click send. Now if you want to also you know type this email with this recipients as well, you can modify that. You can also modify the subject, this body. Let me close this and close this form for now. Now I will show you that as well, as this is the detailed walkthrough video. Then you will see each and everything, and here at the end it will rethrow that throw that exception message, says that init error and whatever message coming from there. Now to do that, to update those things, which is like set currently as a default value as a blank and those things. We need to run this workflow before your automation starts. So this is ConfigUtility.xaml file. Let me open this workflow and its associated form, which is called form underscore config utility.ui form, are used in the attended automation triggers framework to allow users to configure settings before running the automations. And this ensures the key values such as default input values, error handling rules, system settings, which are defined properly before execution. And this is similar to the config file in the RE framework template where we update the settings, constants, assets which is needed for the process. Here in the config utility XML, it provides a form based configuration panel which will show here where user can define settings, default values, exceptions, setting, constants, and assets value for the board to use while execution. You understood it, right? It means we need to run this workflow separately and update the default value before running the actual process. For example, let me close this and run this XML file. So it will read this utility.json, means this file, and then it will set that value to the container, basically this container as a config JSON. So this will be a string. It is just reading that, taking at a config JSON and assigning to the container. And based on the container, whatever key names already set there, it will be replaced with that config values. Let's run that. So here we have a show form, continue workflow execution, and the run local trigger so that it can start reading the taking the inputs from the form from users. Let's open this and let's run it separately. Run workflow file. Let's maximize this here. Okay, now you can see here on the top we have reset all values. Here we have form defaults, exceptions, settings, constant, assets. There are 5 tabs we have. Form defaults, whatever value you will set here, by default it will take that. So as you have seen while execution, it was setting the default value is this output folder path. Now for example, if an input form has a select folder component with the field key output folder path, if we adding this key here, output folder path, so by default it will be like blank like this. If you click on add, if you set the field key and then if you set the file path, the folder path, that will be your default. Means if you see here, for example, I have a folder browse component with the field key this in my input form. If I want that field to be blank for each execution, I can include the field here and then leave it blank. So if I'll do it this way, if I save that and whenever I will run that this process, then it always that input form that will be showing blank. It means you have to update that path every time. You need to click on that, select that folder and run that. Okay, but if we'll put anything special, any folder, that will be always showing there. Now going to the exceptions, here for example, I create a new business rule exception called no input data with the message no data was found in the input file. In your workflow, use the throw activity accompanied by the new business rule exception dictionary and then this one to the use message. So that this will be used here. whatever, like this will be as a key and this will be as a value, like that. So you can click on add and you can save it. But after setting all the default values, you can save it here. Go to settings. Now you can see here we have business process name. Currently these all are blank and this will be updated based on your automations. Now here we have a user guide URL. Currently it is showing as a blank and it was showing a message no user guide found. It was updating in the form status window. Now if we'll click on edit, if we'll set the value, let's say I will say https colon slash slash www.youtube.com/ uipathrpa. Okay, so let's say this is the URL I set against this field key. I will save this. For business process name, if you want to set that, you can set it here. Description, you can update. Now for email response, you can see there is an error. So in case of error, I want to send an email every time to the specific DL or a specific user. So let's say I will say I want to send email to this one. Orchestrator queue name, if you want to set this for this process, you can set it here. Now go to the constant. If you want to update that form title, you can do that. So form title, I can say this is for UiPath attended automation. Save this. If you want to change the maximum retry number to 0, you can set it, or 3, 4, 5, like that. You can change this thing as well. Now go to assets. If you have any assets, you can click on this field key value, that assets folder, you can do that. Now at the end you can click on save. Okay, now let's run this process. So first you have to execute this. Let's run this file. So currently it is going to execute for exception 1. So I have directly run in the run mode. So there is an error and I'm going to show you for this email error. If I click on that, you will see here it has taken mail to as a uipathr@gmail.com, and you can see here it has taken that value which we have passed in the config utility. You can also modify these things from the assign activity. Let's close it. If you want to send that, you can hit click and close. Okay, now I will show you the other one which was user guide. So let's go to the input again, this init, and go to this log message where we set PIP. Okay, update that valid key. Let's run in the debug mode. And you can see it says that starting up. Now, if I click on view user guide, so you will not see that is updated. It will open that URL. Let's click on that. And you can see here, because we entered that YouTube UiPath RPA channel path URL, then it is showing that path here. And you see here, it has opened that URL. Let's close it. And as we set there the output folder path as a blank, so it is blank here. Earlier it was showing there the path because we set the default value there. Now click on continue. So nothing will happen because we need to select that folder. And let's select that path and then click continue, and it's done. Close this. Now let's say you don't want to set any default value, you want to reset all this. Then you will run this process again, this workflow again, config utility. And you see here on the top there is a reset all values button. If you click on that, it will reset all the default settings. It means it will remove all these things here, this as well. So let's click on reset all value. And you see, are you sure you want to reset this config form? All changes to this config form will have been lost. Yes, I want to reset. Once I click yes, please rerun the config utility form. Means this is updated now. You see here, when we use that, so using this form, it has this form, and then it has cancel, reset all values, save config. If you click on reset all values, so what it does, it's shows that a message box with this message, and then with buttons like yes or no. Based on the button chosen, if it is reset confirmation, it means yes, then it copies the backup file, this one, and update this config utility, means this one. Sorry, let's do we have okay, undo, no problem. Let's move it here. Okay, so it updates this one. So it has already updated and overwritten. Now after that it says that please rerun that config utility. Okay, this is done. So this way, and the stop local trigger. This way it resets all these things. So this backup is needed here. Now if we'll run that file again, let's try this. And you see here that that key was not there, it's not available here. In the settings you see this is URL is not available, everything is already removed now. This is now resets, right? These things. Click cancel. Let's see in the cancel, do we have, okay, stop local trigger we already have, but not sure why it didn't stop that. Let's stop this for now. I believe it has selected as a submit, but I think this should be cancel, this one, cancel clicked, then only it will work. So in this video we covered detailed walkthrough of the attended automation triggers template. We covered each and everything, the architecture, and step by step you understood for the success path, system exception, init system exception, user input system exception, cancel form, repeat process, then end process. You understood this config utility form, config reset button, reset all value, how it works, config utility workflow. So you understood each and everything here, right? I hope this video is useful. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next video. See you soon.